Previously on Baconsale.
Jake, look behind you!
No! Oh, she's not real! The Scream Queen is not real!
Can't be hurt. Guys, stay together. She can't hurt us if we stay together.
Oh my gosh.
Please stay together. It's easier for me this way.
Guys,
Power's off.
I can't see her. Are we all still here?
I'm still here. I'm here. Joel? Yeah, I'm here.
I wouldn't leave you.
This is Kate Baconsale. You're listening to Baconsale.
Oh, thinking about our younger years. There was me and Kent and Jake. We recorded on our lunch break. Now Jacob is gone and Zack is here. We built a bacon cave and more. We've got patrons now, and we've got so much more in store. Baconsale has grown a lot in the 6 years since we began. I'm finding it hard to believe it's season 7. The listeners loves what we need, and we've had it right from the start. So I guess it's time to proceed with season 7.
One take.
Yeah.
One take.
Wow. I actually didn't know where that was going, and I'm so happy.
It makes sense.
It does. And welcome to Baconsale Season 7. I'm Joel.
I'm Kent.
And I'm Zack.
And we're so happy to be back.
It is so nice. That month was too long.
Very long. Very long for us. We hope you were able to enjoy our social media presence. Zach was doing a great job with polls
thank
there.
you, Zack.
Thank you. I only spelled most of the words wrong.
Wait a minute. What? I thought...
We're here right now,
we're
right?
here. You're probably wondering.
We're not dead.
We're not dead.
Elephant in the room.
So, funny story.
Hey, I lost some weight, okay?
Yeah. Funny story.
I gained it.
So the Scream Queen killed Jacob.
Yeah. Oh,
And then
that's
we got
nice.
to talking, and she's actually pretty nice.
Yeah.
I know she is.
She is.
She took us out for ice cream.
Yeah.
Which was really
Which is
nice
weird
once she
because-
gave the tongues back.
Yeah. She
Yeah.
took the tongues and then gave them back, and the ice cream was just as good.
Yeah.
It was like in the 1999 Mummy. We're like, my eye.
Did you guys sense a little tension between she and I, though?
Honestly?
We know you guys dated briefly.
Okay.
Confession, we did date casually,
Yeah.
right? There was no title with our relationship.
As there never is with yours.
Oh, wow. She ghosted me. The Scream Queen. And you may think she ghosted me a different way. You know, we've alluded to that before. Straight up ghosted me.
Well, at least I'm glad you didn't break up with her, because otherwise that may have caused issues down the road.
Yeah,
But
I'd be a little worried,
Sounds like
but-
if she dumped you, then we're probably okay.
It's better that way.
You probably deserved it.
I definitely did.
But we're looking forward to this season. We have a lot of fun stuff planned for you, the listener. And also, we have a new patron.
Yeah.
Rachel Allred is our new $3 patron.
Hey, Rachel.
So Rachel has access to Bacon Bits, which if you are a patron, you already got to hear our voices a little earlier because we had a mini episode that we did last week.
They're 30 plus minutes every time.
They shouldn't be.
They're
But they
supposed
are.
to be 10. They're literally supposed to be 10 minutes.
10-minute things.
They are 40 minutes sometimes. 40, 48.
But welcome, Rachel. That's so cool.
Yeah, we really do appreciate it. And thank you, all patrons. We really do appreciate you. And appreciate you, the listener, for listening to us. Let's get on with season 7, because that's not what we're talking about today. What are we talking about today, Zach?
We are talking about the best and mostly the worst of 2020 movies.
Hold on. Wait. Wait, what's happening?
I'm drunk with power. Because my method finally reigns supreme.
You take it easy. That was too far, sir.
So normally when we do this, Kent,
I mock you endlessly.
Normally, because the thing is, we talk about every year, every season, we start off with our movies that we liked last year.
Yeah, generally a year starts from January to the end of December.
Yeah.
Right? And so the movies that come out...
Is that how calendars work?
Right. Well, I'm explaining to Joel because generally I have to.
I follow the same calendar. I don't know what you're talking about.
And so the movies that come out from then to then are the ones that I will review and you usually see on lists. But there was something weird that happened last year. We don't need to get into it. We've talked about it far too long.
We're moving on.
But Joel has a method that we've spoken about ad nauseum.
Well, it's just because
Joel feels the sense of pride.
since the beginning, I've never felt tied to it had to be made in the year for me to count it.
Because you might see a new classic or a classic from way back when new.
Yeah.
In the current year.
And that's the thing is I like watching older movies. I like watching newer ones. And so my thing has always been whatever movie I watched last year for the first time is eligible for this list.
Right.
So we're going to talk about the top 5 and bottom 5 movies of last year, of 2020. And then Kent is, no, I am going to stick to the code of only movies that are being released in this rule I've made up for no apparent reason.
It's calendar-wise. It
And
makes sense. If
if
you look at every
I
other
do
list,
calendar-wise too. It's January, December.
But if I see a movie from 1942 and it's amazing, I'll be like, that's the best movie of 1942,
So
not
you're
of
gonna say that for when we do our
2018.
best of 2000, where we do our best of 1942
Decade
show.
dance of 40s.
If you check episode 266, Our Claim to Shame, you'll find that there's really good movies that we haven't seen.
It's true.
I don't know if any of those made your list, but
Maybe.
some of mine are making it, next year.
But I
great ones.
have here, Kent, that the first movie I watched in 2020 was actually Murder on the Orient Express, 2017.
Oh, right.
And the last movie I watched in 2020 was Wonder Woman, 1984.
Okay.
In 2020.
Yeah, I'm confused.
Yes. And I have the distinct lines there. And like December 31st, that's my last date. I could put anything on this list.
Yeah.
So anything I watched past that?
Whereas me and the other snobby Oscar voters are like, some of the best movies come out on January 10th.
Yeah.
And they're still considered the previous year's
But even
release.
the Oscars are kind of fudging it this year because
Totally.
they're letting that eligibility slide into 2021.
So, and it's
Where's
just
your
the
precious
craziest thing.
calendar now, Ken?
It's destroyed, Joel, okay? Is that what you want to know?
Yes, because no movies came out last year.
The last movie I reviewed on Showtime Showdown was The Invisible Man. Then you jump all the way to September, and then it's Tenet. And then you jump all the way to Wonder Woman 1984. My year, and granted, we watch a lot of streaming, but I never really reviewed them. But my year was destroyed up until December 1st. And then the studios were like, remember how I was complaining? I'm getting no screeners because there's been about 15 movies that have come out this year.
Yeah.
I've actually got just as many screeners as I always do.
Really?
But it's, here's the weird thing.
You were so annoying. You're like, Ma, they're sending me no screeners.
I really was
I want
complaining.
my screeners, Ma.
First world Utah Film Critics problems right here.
That's a very niche problem group.
But it's all the weird, pretentious studios and foreign films that come out and say, watch this movie you never would have given time to.
I just want to bring this up, too, because I just want to run through the top 10 highest grossing films
I'm
of 2020.
devastated already. I can't even hear it.
Number 10, The Sacrifice. Do you know that one?
What?
It's Beijing and Light Pictures. So it's a Chinese film.
Okay.
Number 8.
Is this
Is
worldwide?
this worldwide?
This is worldwide,
Okay.
yes.
We did the same
Yes.
thing.
Yeah, we put our hands out. Whoa, stop.
Number 9, Birds of Prey. You guys have heard that one, the
Yeah.
Harley Quinn movie.
Weird.
I'm not going to pronounce this right. Number 8, Zhang Zaya, another Chinese
Oh,
film.
so good.
Isn't she in Spider-Man Homecoming?
Yes. Number 7, Doolittle.
Oh.
Number 6, Sonic the Hedgehog.
I mean, that makes sense.
Number
kinda.
5, Tenet. Number 4, Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba, the movie Mugen Train.
I like the prequel more.
Japanese.
I like the game.
Number 3, Bad Boys for Life.
What?
That
Number
actually makes
3,
sense.
Worldwide?
highest grossing worldwide. Number 2, My People, My Homeland from China Lion Films Distribution. You guys want to guess the number 1 highest grossing movie of 2020? And keep in
Worldwide.
mind, these are like
Worldwide.
usually worldwide. These are usually ones that we recognize.
This is like your Avengers in Disney territory.
This is
That came out in theaters.
2020.
And it's not Bad Boys?
It's not Bad Boys for Life. It's The 800.
Oh.
Which is a Chinese historical war drama. That's the
It's not the
highest
number I
grossing
called
movie.
when I was 15.
No.
Okay.
No, it's not.
So Bad Boys is the highest domestic.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I wanted to give you guys an idea of what kind of, like, you the listener, what kind of movies are
For
the top 10
example,
highest
we were
grossing?
supposed to get Black Widow, Fast and Furious 9. These movies...
James Bond.
Right. These movies were meant to be the biggest earners, and they're nowhere on the map.
Yeah,
Destroyed.
they are. So today, but what we're going to do, we're going to give you the top 5 worst movies that we watched to help you know what to avoid. And then we're going to switch gears and go to the top 5 best, letting you know what movies are actually pretty good that you should check out.
Yeah, because this year, even though there weren't many movies, there were a lot of bad movies still. They still managed to squeak them in there. They're like, hey, they're going to make money. Hey, Trolls World Tour, we're going to make that premium video on demand. By the way, not on my list because my list has other terrible, terrible movies.
It's not on this list. Was that made in 2020?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was
Was
the
it-
first big success of premium video on demand for $20.
The box office take wasn't particularly
Right.
good.
Right. Yeah, that's right, because it was streaming.
So, yeah, we're going to go 5-1 for both lists. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
We'll go back and forth. Let's start with you, Joel. Give me your fifth, like your
The fifth worst
movie
movie that I watched in 2020.
you watched in 2020.
This is actually from 2020.
Yeah.
It's a movie from 2020. We saw it. We reviewed it.
Oh, no.
But it needs more hate.
This feels sad.
Artemis Fowl.
Oh, okay. I was worried it was another movie.
No.
Okay.
Artemis Fowl. This is the synopsis. Artemis Fowl, a young criminal prodigy, hunts down a secret society of fairies to find his missing father. Directed by Kenneth Branagh, who basically has directed every Shakespeare movie ever. And then the live-action Cinderella, which we actually enjoy.
Yeah, and the
Murder
first
on the
Thor.
Orient Express.
Yeah, and starring no one really. Colin Farrell, Josh Gad, and Judi Dench are only really like big names here.
Yeah.
He looks good in a suit.
I felt so bad for every one of them. Like every one of them.
Did you? I feel like it was elderly abuse for Judi Dench.
No, that's
she didn't
Cats.
really. Both.
Yeah.
I think she walked
Yeah.
from the sets of Cats to this
No,
one.
and we did a whole bacon bit on this. So I'm not going to dwell on it very long. This was released on Disney Plus. It was supposed to be this launch of this franchise of a very popular book series, but the fans of the book did not like it.
Mm-hmm.
We did not like it. This has a Rotten Tomatoes rating of 8%.
Wow.
Not liked.
More like Artemis Fowl, am I right?
That's what the name of the movie is.
Zach Jones started early, huh?
Foul, maybe? Yeah, okay, I got it.
And this wasn't one of those things where it's like everyone's stuck at home, so everyone has an opinion about something they're seeing, right? This was actually bad.
Who
Yes.
greenlit Josh Gad narrating your movie in a Batman voice?
Oh, it was terrible.
Is he the producer? Maybe.
Oh,
And
my
he's
gosh.
he's a giant dwarf, apparently, so he's basically normal sized.
Oh,
okay.
This movie's so horrible.
But I felt like I was missing out. Like when I watched this movie, I was like, "Oh man, I haven't read the books. I'm so lost. I have no idea what's going on." And then I talk to people who've read the books,
Yeah.
and they're like, "I'm so lost. What are they doing to this book series?"
And even the trailer, there were like some scenes that were actually in the movie from the trailer.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened in development, but it got totally ruined.
Yeah. So this is my number 5. It's forgettable. Like I wanted to include at least one 2020 pick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Is this your one
definitely-
2020 pick?
This is my one 2020
Okay.
pick. And so Artemis Fowl. Don't see it.
Okay, continuing on in 2020, what do you got, Kent?
This one, I feel like it's mean and it doesn't quite deserve the number 5 spot. But when I saw it, I just was dying inside. And it's just not made for me, but it's Doolittle starring Robert Downey Jr.
That was on the highest grossing count. I don't know if you heard that.
That means it's good.
That was like number 7 or something like that.
So synopsis is, a physician who can talk to animals embarks on an adventure to find a legendary island with a young apprentice and a crew of strange pets. So like I said, Robert Downey Jr., you have voices of John Cena as a polar bear.
John Cena!
But you don't see him, which is kind of fitting. Kumail Nanjiani as an ostrich, Selena Gomez as a giraffe, Rami Malek, who's a serial killer, as a gorilla, and Emma Thompson as a parrot. So a very big cast. Tom Holland plays a dog.
Yeah.
Like, they have a good cast here.
Hold on, did you just drop a Rami Malek as a serial killer? Just
What?
out of nowhere?
I don't know how that
Totally
came
did.
out. He
Moving
is
on.
totally.
Totally did.
I fear him. But here's the thing: it's like modern references in this Dr. Dolittle movie. You have Robert Downey Jr. doing a Littlefinger accent from Game of Thrones because he's trying to go for a little Irish, but it sounds just like Littlefinger, and he can pull it off, right? He's done Sherlock Holmes, and it's fine. And he is a quirky actor with a lot of charisma. But this movie, it's him against a green screen, and it just feels so hollow.
But here's the other thing too: is he's coming off the Avengers wave, like riding high. Everyone
Highest
loves
he
him,
could be.
and he's like, "What's my next project? Doolittle."
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Now I have not seen this one, Kent.
Who made this?
It honestly could be Warner Brothers or Sony.
Because I wondered if it was like part of a contract at large.
Well, the funny thing
No.
is, like, so I watched Dr. Doolittle, the like old Rex Harrison one, with my kids this past year. We did Song and Dance Sunday in the pandemic.
Oh, nice.
And they loved it. Like, I always thought Dr. Doolittle was kind of a slower, it's not my favorite musical, but it's got some fun parts. But they
Yeah.
absolutely loved it. And so they were asking to watch this one. And I was like,
Look, talking animals are funny. This is made for children, and I think kids will be fine with it. But
is it made for children?
no, because it's all about farts. The whole movie is about farts.
Kids like those.
Okay, so yes, it is made for those kind of
Downey
children.
was a producer on the film, but it was distributed by Universal.
Oh,
So
Okay.
weird.
So here's a famous quote from the movie, because there's famous quotes from Doolittle already. He says, "Something smelled wrong, and that's coming from the guy who loves the smell of butts." That's
an
what the
actual
dog
quote
says.
from the movie?
Uh-huh. Yeah. And the ending of the movie,
That's Tom Holland that says that?
I think it's Tom Holland. I don't even care. Can I spoil the end of the movie? Is that okay?
It's been long enough. Spoiler alert for Doolittle.
So they find a dragon. So this is kind of grounded in reality. They're trying to save the queen who's been poisoned, and they have to go to an island with a dragon
What part
on
of
it.
this is grounded in reality? Why did you have to give that caveat?
Well, I'm just saying, it is like an adventure where a guy can talk. There's nothing grounded in reality at all.
Why did you even say that?
It's fun.
Oh, okay.
And that's the whole thing. It's just this fantasy romp, basically.
Okay. So you're being
Yeah,
facetious.
facetious. And so they find this dragon at the end of the movie. He can speak dragon, and the dragon is so angry. But the dragon would be nice if you remove something blocking its intestines, essentially. And so they remove bagpipes from the bowels of the dragon.
From the rear.
Yeah. And that's a very long scene. And there is, it's very long-winded, I will say. Is that appropriate?
I see what you did there.
And that's the whole movie. And you just see Robert Downey Jr. just being blown by this massive wind. And you're just like, no. And that is how I felt after watching this movie as well. I couldn't even enjoy it. I'll say that. I wanted it to be so bad it was good, but it's just dull.
Okay.
You know who loved this movie?
Uh-oh.
Naveen Harindra gave it 10 out of 10 on IMDb. So many emotions. Acting, everything were good messages. Were nice and great movie. Very enjoyable. Need more.
Need more.
Is that her name? What did you say it was?
Naveen Harindra.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Naveen need more, clearly.
Yeah,
Yes.
Naveen need more.
Terrible. All right. Kent, do you want to give your 4 or do you want to move to Joel?
Yeah, I'll do my
Okay,
fourth.
Kent, do your 4.
Fourth worst of 2020. This one was delayed, like every movie, but was actually released. So it was meant to come out in February. Came out in theaters, kind of, but what movies really came out in theaters, but mostly on demand? It's called Antebellum.
Oh.
So this was one I kept hearing about. Like, oh yeah, this is going to be a big one, and then it went nowhere.
Yes.
And then it showed up on so many people's worst lists.
Isn't it just called A now?
Yeah. This lady.
Is this
Yeah.
the John Wick movie?
No.
What is
That's
this?
Parabellum. This is Antebellum.
So it's a horror movie, right? Like a suspense.
That's what the trailer tells you.
Is that the butterfly face one?
Yes.
Okay.
So, successful author Veronica Henley finds herself trapped in a horrifying reality and must uncover the mind-bending mystery before it's too late. That's the most
vague.
generic description.
Yeah, that's like movie trailer generic talk.
Yeah. So this is Janelle Monáe, the singer and sometimes actress.
She's cool.
And she stars as this author in modern day, but is sometimes, and this is what the trailer shows, I don't want to ruin too much, but is
in the
sometimes
trailer.
transported to the Civil War South, basically, where she is a slave. But she knows it. Like, she has knowledge of modern day and the suffering that she's going through
So she's
at
like
that point.
quantum leaping back into the Civil
That's kind of what it implies.
Talk about shows that need a reboot.
Oh,
No.
we've gone there.
War. No,
we've gone there.
Leave it in the past.
I know.
The movie is meant to be twisted. This is coming from the studio who brought us Get Out, and that's what the trailer shows us.
Yeah, it's not a horror movie.
From a producer who was kind of on Get Out, but Jordan Peele had nothing to do with this at all. And it is not a horror at all. It's horrific things that happen in this movie because there's so much suffering. It's almost like the passion levels of like abuse that go in here. And you're kind of like, that's weird because they transition from that to modern day where it's like, like a fun girls' night comedy. The transition
That's a
is
weird
super
contrast.
super weird.
Is that because I'm wondering why people don't like it so much? Like, what's wrong with this movie?
It is
it that
it's indulgent, like the camera shots. It's trying to be like, hey, we're good filmmakers, but we actually just stole this plot from 7 other movies. And when you see this movie finally, if you ever do, you're going to be like, oh, okay, you tried to make that a thing. Now, that didn't work the first time around. And so it's indulgent.
You're not going to spoil it?
I'm not going to spoil it.
Tell me after.
Okay, I'll tell you
not gonna
after.
watch it.
But remember when I saw Serenity last year with Matthew McConaughey?
Hashtag not my Serenity. Yeah.
This is the Serenity of this year.
Oh, okay.
This is so, at the end, laughably bad that I just want to get away from it.
Definitely want you to spoil this for me after.
Okay.
Did it bomb?
Hated it. Yeah, it totally bombed.
Okay.
Joel, what do you have for 4?
One of my favorite, speaking of horror movies, one of my favorite horror movies is Joyride, starring Steve Zahn, Lily Sobieski.
Which is so fun. Guilty
Yeah,
pleasure?
it's one of those dumb ones that I'm like, this is so stupid.
Is Spider-Man in that one?
No, it's Paul Walker is in that one.
Oh, because there's another Joyride that Tobey Maguire is in, I think.
Is there?
Yeah, it's weird. Anyway.
So when I saw this movie starring Lily Sobieski and Steve Zahn and Danny Glover, I went, well, this is intriguing. It's 2009, and it's a movie called Night Train.
Oh, you told me about this one.
So here's the
Are you going to spoil these movies, by the way?
I don't know. This one is
Okay.
one
2009.
They shouldn't watch them. Like the best, I don't want a spoiler, but the worst, I'm like, I don't care. But here's the synopsis. 2 passengers and the conductor discover that a man has passed away on their night train cabin. They come across a mysterious object in a box the dead man was carrying, and they all wish to keep for themselves. So this is 83 minutes long. It was a direct-to-video
that's
release.
nothing.
Yeah, it's a direct-to-video release. And this is rated R for violent content and some language. And I did watch it on ClearPlay DVD, so I think that's the only way to find it edited, because who knows about this movie?
And who cares?
I don't know why ClearPlay even had it.
Wait, and why do you submit yourself to this?
Because I was like, oh,
Interest
there
at
was
one
Steve
point.
Zahn.
That's it.
Yeah, I put it in my queue, and then it bumped up, and I'm like, yeah, Steve Zahn. I like Steve Zahn. I want to watch movies with Steve Zahn in them. And then this movie was one where I attended a lot of film festivals while in college. I was a film student, so I'd go to these. And you'd watch these student filmmakers put together a movie on a shoestring budget, and you forgave a whole bunch of technical stuff.
Yeah.
Because you're like, you know what? They had an idea. They made it. This movie feels like one of those films. It's like, you know, the nephew of Danny Glover was like making a movie, and he got these people involved. So you're like, oh, these are big names. The time period is not clear. Like at first I thought it was like a 40s kind of thing or something like that. But all of a sudden it's like modern times because they talk about like cell phones or something like that. And I'm like, wait, what? Yeah. But from the beginning, just something felt off. Like it's just the way it looks very cheap, and it just doesn't look right. Like there's something weird about the look. And the story starts off and it's kind of interesting because this guy dies on a train and he's carrying this box, and they look inside and they're like, you know, diamonds, and it can make us rich. And then it's a question of, well, if no one knows he was here and we take this, no one will know we have it. And so it's like this kind of like these 3 people are trying to come to terms on, are they okay with this? Of just kind of
Like A Simple Plan. Did you ever see that movie?
I haven't, but I know the basic premise.
Okay.
And kind of like that. And so I'm like, okay, this is kind of intriguing. And then it just gets so bizarre and goes, if you'll pardon the pun, Night Train goes completely off the rails.
There we go.
Because at the end, my jaw was on the floor when what they were trying to do. And then they end it in such a dumb way where they're trying to make it. I'll say this much. It starts out a very realistic, grounded drama thriller. And I'm like, oh, this is like Hitchcock. And then it turns into a supernatural laugh fest where it's no longer real and it no longer is compelling, and it's just laughable and stupid. And they don't know how to end it, so they end it on this weird cliffhanger that makes no sense. So I highly recommend avoiding Night Train from 2009.
So you rank things out of 5 stars.
Yes,
What would this get?
this got a 1.5.
Okay.
Wow.
This was one of the things where I was like, you know, it started off, I was on board. Once again with the puns, but by the end it was just bad. Like I hated it by the end. Lily Sobieski was so bad in this movie.
It's a wonder you don't see her anymore.
Yeah.
In movies.
But yeah, it's not going to be hard to avoid because you'll have to actually seek this movie out if you want to watch it.
Yeah, that's true.
It was on Netflix DVD. I don't even have that anymore.
Yeah, and if cable was still around, cable late at night, but still.
Yeah.
And how about your 3, Joel?
My number 3 worst movie that I watched last year was actually made by Steven Spielberg.
Really?
I hated 1941.
Oh, yeah.
This feels wrong for some reason.
That was made. I know. A Steven Spielberg movie is making my bottom 3.
Yeah, we had a full show about Spielberg.
We did. Episode 65. Steven Spielberg and the Raiders of the Lost Art. Wow, we had long titles back then. The synopsis: hysterical Californians prepare for a Japanese invasion in the days after Pearl Harbor. Which sounds a little serious, but no, this is a comedy. This is a slapstick screwball comedy.
So bizarre.
Starring Dan Aykroyd, Ned Beatty, John Belushi, John Candy, Christopher Lee, Tim Matheson, and Robert Stack.
That's an awesome cast.
It's a great cast.
Yeah.
It's Steven Spielberg. This was nominated for an Academy Award for visual effects because it has very impressive, like big sets, like airplanes flying through a city, things crashing, things blowing up, houses falling off, things like there's a lot.
Okay.
There's a budget behind this because this came after Jaws and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, but just before Raiders of the Lost Ark. And it's terrible. This is probably why Steven Spielberg doesn't do comedies, because he can't. It's terrible. This was written by Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale, who did Back to the Future. Like, they've done good comedy. I don't know what they're doing here.
Well, and they do say, right, like comedy is harder than drama.
Mm-hmm.
This is just sloppy. It's these sloppy different pieces of story all rolled together in one stupid ball, featuring some of the greatest comedians. And it's weird to see them just fall flat in their face because they're given nothing good to do. It's just annoying. It makes me angry when I watch this movie because I was like, you're wasting talent.
Is it tragic at all? Like near the end?
No. It's slapstick. From beginning to end, it's slapstick. Like just as a brief moment here, John Belushi, his character is introduced by him flying into like next to some desert gas station on his plane, and he lands the plane and says, basically they're worried that the Japanese are going to attack them after attacking Pearl Harbor.
Okay.
And so he comes in and he starts talking to the gas station person. He tries to fill up his plane, ends up lighting the gas on fire. It goes back to the gas station, blows the whole gas station up. That's the joke. And then he flies off. And I'm like, it's
pretty funny.
Not great. And so actually John Wayne and Charlton Heston were both offered roles in this movie. They turned him down, and they actually urged Spielberg not to do this movie because they felt it was unpatriotic and kind of mocking World War II.
Oh, okay.
Which is kind of weird when you think of Spielberg now, but he doesn't mock World War II.
Huh.
But yeah, and Steven Spielberg did say at one point, he says he considered converting this to a musical halfway through. And he said, quote, "In retrospect, that might have helped." And he also said, "I'm not embarrassed by it. I just think it wasn't funny enough." And it was not. This is rated PG, but it's 1979 PG.
So there's like 6 F words in it.
No, it's mostly just nudity. A brief nudity. But they actually got the girl from Jaws to come back and kind of mock that scene. And instead of a shark, it's a submarine that comes up. And
Spielberg did that. He parodied a classic.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of those little references in there in this movie, like kind of talking about those things. But I
would say he was on drugs, but it's almost like he lost his muse because that was his heyday.
I know. 1979 should have been peak Spielberg, and it's not. And this actually made money. Like the budget was $35 million. It made $94.9 million.
Wow.
So almost triple its budget. But I do not recommend seeing this movie if you want to keep your respect for Spielberg. Don't watch 1941.
All right, Kent, what's your number 3 worst of the year?
So when the owner and operator of a luxurious island invites a collection of guests to live out their most elaborate fantasies in relative seclusion, chaos quickly descends. This is Fantasy Island.
That came out?
Yeah. This came out in probably first week of January.
Because I remember the trailer was like this, supposed to be this kind of suspense thriller.
Yeah.
Right?
Once again, pitch is a straight up horror film because scary movies make money. They're generally made for very little, and then they make sometimes 5 to 10 times their budget, if not more.
Yeah. Most of the budget's on fake blood.
Right. And so this one stars Michael Pena, Lucy Hale, Maggie Q, a bunch of people you don't really know or care about.
I barely knew those names.
Michael Pena, Ant-Man, funny guy, yeah. But this is based off Ricardo Montalban TV show from back in the day.
Boss, the plane.
And they do the plane scene.
Do they?
A few times in this one.
Oh.
It's just, it doesn't, no, it's so bad. So what it is it's a supernatural island where people come to the island and they say, for example, hey, I want to torture the girl who bullied me in high school.
That was in the trailer.
Yeah. So, hey, this movie just became Saw, and you're going to be able to torture her as she is like held prisoner. And you're like,
but in
okay.
the trailer, and this is, I have not seen it. In the trailer, it makes it seem like she doesn't know if it's real or not.
Yeah. So basically, it's saying they think it's all virtual, and in many ways, it could be. The movie doesn't really go there.
No.
But you get your wish. Like, for example, these two brothers, they just want to go to a party. So they wish, they're basically selling their souls. They wish to go to a cool party. And
wow, dudes.
And so they go to a cool party.
Aim high.
Yeah. One cop decides that he wants to fight in a war. And so all of a sudden it becomes...
That's his wish?
Yeah. And it becomes a war film, a la Vietnam style.
I wonder if he wished that in Wonder Woman 1984.
Wish renounced, please.
Yeah.
So, but this is kind of like a Lifetime movie because there's a relationship wish. Like I said, war, Saw, Hangover, Zombie, Supernatural. And it has a twist at the end that I'm not even going to say ruins it all because the movie is bad. The acting is bad. But the twist is ludicrous. Like it actually becomes...
makes a cameo?
Yeah, he kind of does. It makes it almost better because you're like, wow, you really went there. You really tried with this thing because it was very standard up till now, and you wanted to make it that much worse. I applaud you for it.
Can't wait to spoil this one for me after, too. I got to make a note of the ones you got to spoil for me after.
Okay. The entire thing is forgettable. It's so dumb. I can't even talk more about it. Really, I hate talking about these worst movies because we're giving them more publicity than they deserve.
Well, and I worry also that when we talk about how bad a movie is, people be like, well, I want to see it.
Yes.
It's like when, this tastes terrible. And they're like, I want to try it. It's just,
Smell this.
yeah. Why?
Don't smell Fantasy Island.
That's great advice, Kent.
Yeah.
Thank you. How about your number 2, Kent?
It's a movie that I saw very recently because I knew it would be terrible, but I didn't know it would be this terrible. It's called Coffee and Kareem. And
Wait.
once again, Coffee and Kareem.
Like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yes. But get it? Because Coffee and Kareem, this is a buddy cop movie.
So wait, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is not in
He
this?
is not in this movie.
Okay.
Sadly, if he was, it would be great.
Yeah.
So, 12-year-old Kareem Manning hires a criminal to scare his mom's new boyfriend, police officer James Coffey. But it backfires, forcing Coffey and Kareem to team up in order to save themselves from Detroit's most ruthless drug kingpin. So, Ed Helms
So they're
plays...
just leaning into this pun then.
Yes.
Coffee and Kareem.
Yes. Ed Helms plays Coffey, the cop, the bumbling cop, who everyone makes fun of. And this 12-year-old kid plays...
Ed Helms from The Office. Andy from The Office. Yeah.
Man, he's so good in everything.
Once again proves, why are they hiring this guy as a lead in anything?
No, Ed Helms is one of those people that I'm like, hey, side character, great.
Yes.
No, he's the worst part of The Office.
That's
No, but
true.
when he's a side character, fine. But then they kept giving him more and more screen time, and I'm like, no, Andy. No, we don't want more Andy. Stop putting Andy in the screen.
Mm-hmm. Remember when we saw the trailer for Good Boys and you're like, oh, these are children telling dirty jokes.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
That is this movie times 4 because this 12-year-old kid, there are 171 F-bombs in this movie.
Are you kidding me?
From the kid.
This is a child actor?
Yes.
Scorsese?
Legit.
Who are his parents?
Yeah.
Martin Scorsese's his parents?
It's not just the F words. The things he says they're the worst things you can think of a child saying. I don't get offended generally, but
Yeah,
I
I
was
was
like,
okay, most of this is water off your back. Why did
Right.
this one rub you?
It really was like so maybe aggravating because the kid was just, he's a bad actor. Like, so he doesn't pull it off. It's not like you're like, that's good shock humor. It's the kid is like looking into the camera, saying horrible, offensive things. And you're like, stop it. It was by the guy who made Stuber, if that gives you any clue.
Oh, yeah, that
one
was a
had-
movie, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. That everyone kind of forgot about. I generally have comedies on my worst of list because when a comedy doesn't work, it really doesn't work.
Comedies are the worst.
There are no laughs to be found here. There's a lot of explosions. This is like Let's Be Cops that came out, 8 years ago? And I hated that movie so much. People probably forgot about it. And it was just so forced. And this is that version. I can't hate this movie enough.
But
Coffee and
only
Kareem.
number 3 enough.
Yeah, this is number 2.
That's your number 2?
Yes.
Oh,
It's
wow.
1 hour, 28 minutes, so it's short, but it feels so long.
That sounds bad.
Yeah.
That sounds real bad.
Joel, over to you for your number 2.
My number 2 is going to be a spoiler for maybe an upcoming show, but I just need to talk about how much I hate Casino Royale from 1967.
Oh. Okay, I'm on board.
So this obviously came out way before 2020. It's
I'm a big
1967.
James Bond fan. Be careful.
Oh, then you should not watch this movie.
This movie,
Have you
this
seen it?
movie is trash.
It's The Pit.
Oh.
So this one is Casino Royale with Daniel Craig is not this movie. Put that
No,
out of
yeah,
your
yeah.
head. And instead, I want you to just picture this. In an early spy spoof, aging Sir James Bond comes out of retirement to take on Smersh. And there are like 6 James Bonds.
Which is the original Spectre
yes.
from the books.
Save it for our Bond show. Which
called
we're
Smersh?
doing eventually.
I know
Yeah,
this one.
Smersh. Yeah.
Smersh and hate it.
So, like, you have Peter Sellers
Schmersh.
is James Bond. Ursula Andress is James Bond. Woody Allen is James Bond.
Is it
I am
because they
Spartacus.
lost David Niven throughout? Wasn't he playing the original Bond
They
here?
did, but the whole plan was they were going to create a bunch of different Bonds to confuse Smersh, and they didn't know it was the title.
Oh, I thought it was because they lost contract with him, and so they just had to make it up as they went.
I don't know how they got the rights to this. This is 4 real Bond movies, and they'd made 4 actual Bond movies. The 5th one came out 2 months after this movie. I don't know how they got away with this because it is terrible, and it tarnishes the name of James Bond. This had 6 different directors making it, and it shows. It is so uneven. It is so disjointed. It's like these horrible, dry British slapstick comedy. And then on top of it, you have just nonsensical story. Like nothing's going on.
You know the scenes, the little asides where in Austin Powers where he's dancing with Ming T or he's dancing with it, and
The scene transitions.
right.
Yeah.
That's this movie to me.
It is.
Imagine an hour and 45 minutes of those.
And on top of it, like Peter Sellers, a comedic actor,
Yeah.
who I don't like as much after watching his biography,
Nope.
he hated being on this movie. He wanted to do it seriously. They wanted him to do it funny. And so he walked off the set. So then they just had to write him dying and they kind of filmed this kind of scene that kind of shows him maybe dying. And they're like, okay, moving on. And like, it's just so haphazard. It's practically unwatchable, but also I almost want people to see it to see how bad it is because it's such a train wreck.
Yeah.
But I don't want them to waste their time with it because it is 131 minutes of misery.
Oh, my word.
And it was nominated for an Academy Award.
For what?
For Best Song. Burt Bacharach wrote The Look of Love.
Well,
But
yeah.
It
Burt
lost
Bacharach.
but it lost to Talk to the Animals from Dr. Dolittle.
Oh, hey, full circle.
Bring it back. And it made $40 million on a budget of actually. So it originally had a budget of $6 million. I should save this all for a Bond show, but it had a budget of $6 million.
No.
That ballooned to $12 million, so double its budget, but it still made $41 million, and I have no idea why because this movie is trash.
Spy movies, espionage was really popular back then. So,
But it was
You could really say
funny.
anything.
This wasn't funny.
No.
This was a terrible comedy.
on drugs?
On drugs? I don't know. Kent, you tell me.
I don't know.
I'm glad you're bringing this up so we can talk about it less on the
Yeah,
Bond show.
thank you very
Can't
much.
waste time there. But
This is horrible.
I feel bad bringing it up because, like you said, I watched it because we were watching all the James Bond
There
movies.
was something worse than this?
Yes.
I can't wait.
And I'll get to it.
Okay.
But we got to do honorable mentions first.
Yes, we do.
Honorable mentions for your worst movies of the year.
Joel, what were your honorable mentions?
Most of them are dominated by Friday the 13th.
oh, yeah.
Friday the 13th, the final chapter, terrible. Jason Goes to Hell, the final chapter, or Final Friday, terrible. Sharknado, terrible. The New Charlie's Angels, 2019, terrible. Dinner for Schmucks, I watched that, hated it. And then Deck the Halls. These are all like
seen
older
that
movies.
one.
I don't think any of those are 2020s, but that was...
Charlie's Angels. No.
That was 2019. Yeah. But just terrible. Avoid all those movies. They're disgusting.
So mine are Superintelligence with Melissa McCarthy.
Oh, yeah.
It's AI, voiced by James Corden, who's going to take over the planet. But first, he's going to see if he can find love for Melissa McCarthy.
Fun fact, James Corden's never been funny.
Never. Never. And definitely not in this movie.
Wow, Zach's coming out of 2021 with some James Corden hate.
The Grudge remake that came out in February.
Oh, yeah. Was that bad?
Absolutely atrocious. It's just dull. It was straight up jump scares. They tried to expand. So this was a sequel, not a remake.
Mm-hmm.
And they tried to expand the story, and it belongs with the other bad Grudge sequels. It's horrible. The New Mutants. We've waited for this for 3 years.
Have we?
Okay. We've been told about it for 3 years.
Yes, there we go.
But
Yes.
Anya Taylor-Joy.
I know, and I'm embarrassed that she was in this movie. There is a hell bear in this movie, and that is the climax here. They fight a giant nightmare bear. A hell bear.
Oh, so it's a bear, not
Yeah,
like something
bear.
like bear. Okay.
Yeah, and that is the climax. They fight a giant nightmare bear. And that is the thing that makes the most sense
Giant
in the
Nightmare
New
Bear was my
Mutants.
band's name in college.
This is
Boom! First of the year.
there we
Yeah.
go. This is the worst X-Men movie, and it barely fits
Worse
as an
than
X-Men movie.
X3.
Yep, worse than anything.
Wolverine.
Worse.
Wow.
Wow.
I mean, considerably worse.
Worse
Okay. What else you
than
got?
Van Forstick?
That's not an X-Men movie.
I know, but I'm just thinking. I'm just
Basically.
wondering.
Worse.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Songbird, the pandemic movie, the quarantine movie that they made in like a month. Horrible.
Not Lady Bird.
I will ruin that for you later.
Okay.
Songbird, don't watch it at all.
Put on the list of the
Things I will spoil for you. And then The Turning, which there was Haunting of Bly Manor, which came out on Netflix. The Turning was the movie that came out in January that was meant to adapt The Turn of the Screw, but it was just horribly done. Basically, there are scary noises, but we don't show anything, and it's really confusing and dark, the whole movie.
These
Horrible.
all came out in 2020.
Yes. Wow. That is my list for honorable mentions.
So now we're going to our
Skip all of
number
them.
one.
Mm-hmm.
Our number one worst hated movie that we saw in 2020.
Yes.
Well, yeah, you.
He
Worst
saw- him
yourself.
too.
You in 2020.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, they're both worst we saw in 2020.
What do you got?
These could have dominated my whole list.
These.
These could have.
Hold
and the
on.
problem is, I may be spoiling a future show on this as well.
Oh, I feel like you're being mean.
Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. 1989.
This feels mean, Joel. It's like
Kent.
an easy.
So in October,
an easy choice. No, but it feels mean.
My whole list could have been Friday the 13th movies. They were all like 1 star. I really didn't like most of them. But the thing is, like, Jason Takes Manhattan. Here's the premise. A boat full of graduating high school students heading to Manhattan accidentally pull Jason Voorhees along for the ride. Directed by Rob Hedden, who also directed Poo Poo Papa.
Quality.
Wait, but how do they take him along for the ride? Because he's been at Camp Crystal Lake that has a lake.
Well, let me tell you, kid.
Okay, please do.
Apparently, Camp Crystal Lake has an outlet to the ocean that then leads to Manhattan. But here's the thing. You don't see Manhattan until the last, 20 minutes of this movie. And it's 100 minutes long. It's way too long. But most of this movie takes place on a boat. It's basically Jason on a cruise ship. But
it sounds like a ghost ship.
I did watch, I didn't binge watch these movies all in a row. This is one at a time, and I kept being like, oh, that was terrible. Oh, that was even worse. Wow, how can they get much worse? Then this one came along. I got them all on YouTube TV, so a lot of it was, TV edited and all that.
Right.
But this was still just gruesome and dumb and horrible, and they started to break their own rules, Kent. Now, Jason has been, and we may do a Jason movie down the road, because now that I've seen them all, it's a challenge. I win.
Do you put that out there?
Yes,
Hey, I created the challenge right now,
I
and I won.
by losing. But this was one where, in the past, he followed a certain set of rules to a point.
Yeah.
He could somehow appear in front of him, but whatever. This one literally has a scene where a character is running away from Jason, looking behind themselves at Jason, watching him as they're running into this building. They run into a building, and then they get thrown out a window, and then Jason walks up because he just threw him out of a building. He teleports. On the boat,
I've heard that rumor.
On the boat, he's everywhere. The complete disregard for spatial relationships drove me nuts in this movie.
You're complaining about spatial relationships in a Friday the 13th
There's
movie.
another scene, and
Did Christopher Nolan direct this?
So there's a scene where Jason comes up behind a guy and cuts his throat.
Yeah.
And they do it in slow motion. And the knife never touches his neck. They do it in slow motion, and the knife never touches his neck. Now, I was like, well, maybe the TV version edited it out. I looked up the clip online. No, it's just dumb editing. And it doesn't even touch his throat, and then his neck starts to bleed magically.
It's just dumb
Joel,
editing.
I feel like you're the wrong demographic. This movie was made for perverts and 12-year-old me.
You may think that, Ken,
okay?
But it was the most expensive. It was the most expensive film in the series with a budget of over $5 million. Yet it only made 14.3 at the domestic box office, making it the poorest performing Friday the 13th series of the whole series to date. And it has an 8% on Rotten Tomatoes. People agree this is the worst Friday the 13th movie.
And this is a bad series. Jason is considered a legendary slasher.
Yes.
But why?
So many and that thing is just the acting is terrible. There's a whole thing where when they finally get to Manhattan, kind of spoiler alert, but not really. They literally walk on shore and immediately get mugged, right then. And then they kidnap some person and inject them with drugs. And it's all oh yeah, Manhattan's scarier than Jason, basically. And then they don't know their way around. So they're okay, wandering around. And they happen to keep finding each other, and Jason keeps finding them, even though they'd never been there before. It makes no sense.
Are you okay?
I'm a little bugged. But that's my number one worst movie that I watched last year. Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, which I gave 1 star.
Wow. Yeah. I'm surprised you give it that high.
A lot of these things don't let you go lower than that.
Okay.
All right, Kent, what is your number one of 2020?
It's been spoken about, but I do think it's worse than Jason Takes Manhattan because this is a bunch of kids and fairies take a mansion. This is Artemis Fowl.
Wow.
The worst Disney live action movie ever made.
Wow.
I'm throwing out the hyperbole on this show.
This is big statement. Now, granted, Kent, I could include movies outside of 2020. You had to include a movie within 2020.
Yes.
This is my only pick from 2020.
Yeah.
But you're saying that Jason Takes Manhattan is better than Artemis Fowl?
It's been a while.
Or excuse me, Zack says Artemis Fowl.
Right? Am I right?
Who knows which movie? But we've talked about Josh Gad speaking like Batman and narrating the movie. But what about when he digs stuff? He pulls open his mouth and he burrows through the ground.
Pulls open his mouth super big.
Yeah.
And then the dirt shoots out his butt.
Comes out of his butt.
Family friendly?
It's
there. What do you say?
This is a big part of the movie. It's a plot. And this one, and once again, apologies.
He dug a plot.
Yes.
Artemis Fowl.
Am
I right?
And this one is built around this MacGuffin, the Aculus
or something like that.
That's in the mansion the whole time.
Quest.
There is a fairy civil war, like an insurgency, that is just kind of resolved at some point. And there's the fairy lead girl hates Artemis because he's meant to be a jerk. This kid is meant to be a very brilliant jerk. In the movie, he's just kind of a dull.
He's kind of a brat.
Yeah, he's a brat.
He's not a jerk. He's just a little kid
But that's it.
He can't back up what he says.
But the thing I love about this movie, I can't even be sarcastic. I just got to say, the villain, what is going on here? It's this hooded figure that's kind of they shot on like Turtles 2 Secret of the Ooze set or something that is holding Colin Farrell captive and says, you need to give me the MacGuffin and then I'll let you rescue your dad. And they find the MacGuffin and they just save the dad in some weird scene where they're like, let's just end the movie. I think this movie, I don't think there's a good movie here, but editing just kind of made this movie end.
You call them a villain, but really they're just a set piece.
Yeah, it's a set piece.
Because at the end, there's no final big battle with them. You don't get a big reveal. I thought it was going to be a big twist where it was one of the characters we've trusted.
Yeah, I have no clue. I didn't even remember.
They just kind of go away.
Are there some like pixie police or something like
Yes.
that?
Yeah.
They remind me of the elves with attitude from the Santa Claus.
Yeah. Basically,
Done worse, though.
Basically,
But
the
worse.
villain is the, I'll get you next time, Gadget.
Yeah.
Next time. And then they're gone.
And, you know, it is cliche to be like, oh, it's a young adult adaptation that had one movie and didn't go any further. You have to wonder why they changed the source material so much if they do want it to be a money-making series.
Kenneth Branagh generally knows what he's doing with movies.
Yeah.
But
I don't know what happened here.
not this one.
Oh,
So I'm going to agree with you that it was probably the worst in
and
2020.
we did do a bacon bit of this one. If you want to listen to us just rant about this movie, go right ahead.
It's so bad.
I couldn't even go back and listen to that bacon bit because this movie angers me. This is one I did watch with my kids because I'm like, hey, look, it's probably made for them.
Yeah.
Like, let's see how it goes. My daughter's been reading like Fablehaven lately and loving it.
Oh, yeah, it's great.
So I'm like, hey, maybe she'll like this. And they both were like, what is going on here?
This, like, honestly, these type of adaptations make me nervous for anyone to do like Brandon Moore's Fablehaven. 'Cause
Yes.
I love that series, but I'm like, oh, if they do that wrong.
Like they should give it 20 years before the Hollywood greed kind of, well, it will never go away.
Right.
But these people making these poor decisions are no longer in power.
Yeah.
But Artemis Fowl, I absolutely hated. Disney was right to throw it on Disney Plus because it is a throwaway. It shouldn't be a premium video on demand. But wow.
Well, and that is your bottom list. That's all we have. 786 Joel on Twitter. Showtime.
No.
We're done.
We got to get happy. 2021's got to start good.
Come on, get happy.
All right.
Zach, did you have a movie that you just absolutely hated this year?
I didn't watch a ton this year, but Artemis Fowl was probably my worst. I hated it.
The foulest.
Now, if we're going Joel logic, my worst movie of the year has got to be just one of the Twilights that I saw for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
Because I watched, I think I'd only seen 2 Twilight movies going into watching all 5 of them. I don't remember which one's which, but
I hear preschool teachers love them, though.
that's what they say. Yeah. No, I don't think that. Like those have probably got to be it, but there's probably more to enjoy in those than Artemis Fowl.
There's so much better than
I could defend Twilight like wholeheartedly.
You did.
Yeah.
You did.
And I did.
Yeah.
I could not defend anything in Artemis Fowl.
This is really bad. But luckily, of this list, that is the only one that I have. Oh, I guess Casino Royale as well. It's the only one I saw.
Oh.
So try to avoid those.
Mulan.
That wasn't on our list.
Yeah.
Those.
It was even that movie, which I didn't like, didn't make my honorable mentions because there were so many worse movies.
Yeah, that just did what it was just unmemorable.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the top.
Positivity.
Best.
Let the good vibes flow.
Great
All
movies
right.
we saw last year.
Okay.
Okay, and once again, I was terrified of this list. I even had Joel reach out to me and be like, hey, are you going to be okay with a top 5 list? Because you haven't really been proud of anything.
5 movies come out this year?
Yeah. And you usually I'll be like, oh my gosh, I love this movie so much. But I haven't really been proud of any grand movie this year. And to be honest, my list is B's, B pluses, A minuses, whereas generally I will have 3 solid A's. And
Is your
then go
list
from
is
there.
your list a good for trying sort of thing? Like
Good for trying, but I'll say this. At the end of the year, with all the screeners, they waited till the very, very end. There are some really, really solid B pluses that have come out. Still no A's. But I'm like grading on the curve. I'm like,
it's like you're
these
dating
movies
life.
are so good. I wish. So I do have a really good top 20 of movies that I really liked.
Yeah.
But it does not compare to previous years. Where
Yeah,
I'm
so-
like,
so compared
this
to-
is the movie I would preach to
So you
everybody.
still have good movies, just comparatively not nearly
Yes.
the quality. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my number 5
Yeah.
is Mank.
Yes.
Really?
You talked about it on the show.
Yeah,
or on
so-
the Pick and Bit.
1930s Hollywood is reevaluated through the eyes of scathing social critic and alcoholic screenwriter Herman J. Mankiewicz as he races to the finish of the screenplay of Citizen Kane.
That was really good.
Yeah, there you go. So directed by David Fincher in a non-David Fincher type movie.
Like a black and white
The black and
straightforward
white
drama.
transitions. This is meant to be reminiscent of the time period while scathing old Hollywood.
Who's in this? Amanda Seyfried and
So Amanda Seyfried, Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman. That's right.
I've always been fascinated. I didn't see Citizen Kane till I was in college, and that was at the point where I'm like, everyone's right. That was the most brilliant movie I've ever seen. And even though it has dropped since then for me, I'm still fascinated by the history of Orson Welles and how that movie didn't succeed the way he wanted it to. Because that guy was 25. Backing a movie like that, this guy could do anything, and then Hollywood wouldn't let him after that. How Green Was My Valley won Best Picture that year. Citizen Kane won for Best Screenplay, but that is it.
Yeah.
And it's Citizen Kane.
Yeah. People love that movie.
So I never really considered, hey, I want to see a movie about a screenwriter who's involved with Citizen Kane. But David Fincher, his dad wrote this screenplay years and years ago. It was a passion project. And so in tribute to his father, he decided to make it into a movie. And it's actually really sweet that way. The movie doesn't feel sweet at times, but I love, like, it really gets into William Randolph Hearst, who Citizen Kane is based on, sort of.
On him, yeah.
And Charles Dance, who is like a brilliant actor, and you hate him in everything.
Yeah.
He's
Last
the
Action Hero.
Yes.
He's
and
really...
Tywin Lannister in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
He plays William
Crappy
Randolph
ending.
Hearst. Yeah. Yes. Good call. But he plays this character in this movie to perfection. The performances here are so good, even though they are kind of speaking in the cadence. Like Amanda Seyfried, for example, plays a starlet who just wants...
Amanda Seyfried is in one of your top 5 best movies of the year?
It's the craziest thing because I've never cared about her as an actress. She kills it.
Okay.
She's so...
That's big words for
This
you,
is
'cause you don't
game-changing
like
for me and her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna reconsider her.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to call her. I Facebook friended her, but she hasn't accepted
Ken
yet.
reconsiders Amanda Seyfried.
Yeah, but she was amazing. Gary Oldman, once again, it's almost like kind of beside the point to say Gary Oldman was great in anything because he just is.
He is so reliable.
Yeah, but he is fantastic in this one. In most of the movie, he's laying in bed writing a screenplay, which he's kind of going insane about. And here's why I love it. It is a story about someone who accomplishes the biggest success they've ever had and people threatening to take that away. And granted, a lot of this is fictitious or presumed about.
Right.
But there is so much like inner turmoil in this story and family relations and just conquering demons in this story while having and here's the weird thing, the score is by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, who also did Soul this year.
So it's good.
Yeah.
It's good, but it doesn't sound like a Social Network David Fincher
Because Trent
score.
Reznor's awesome at doing movies.
And these two have always done David Fincher movies.
Nice
But
qualifier.
it doesn't, yeah. Well, there's
I know,
good-
just the way
yeah.
Zach qualified that made me laugh.
But it feels perfect for the time they're basing this on. And sometimes if you saw another filmmaker make a movie like this with the swipe transitions and stuff like that, like it would feel a bit hollow, but everything comes together to make this pretty brilliant. It's slow and it's old-timey on purpose. It dwells on scenes a long time.
Is the runtime of this more or less than your description of it just now?
Slightly more.
Okay.
And now.
Okay.
But yes, that's my number 5, Mank.
I think I'm going to make a movie, Joel. It's going to be very similar to that, only it's the story of how Kent wrote the teleplay for the fictional true crime show.
I was just an alcoholic, you know. Diet Mountain Dew.
So it's a coincidence that you picked a black and white movie.
Okay.
Because so did I. But mine is from 1941.
And it's not 1941?
No. That was, I actually
Ironic.
was like, oh. But back on episode 269 of Baconsale, the Podleywood game,
Yes.
we decided we were going to count up how many of AFI's top 100 movies we'd seen.
Oh, yeah.
And I soundly beat Kent with that.
Soundly by 5?
Yeah. Back
Sure.
then I'd only seen 89, but now I've seen 88.
Wait, less?
No. Or excuse me. I can't imagine. I saw 87.
Hey, it's been a weird year.
I saw 87. Now I've seen 88.
Brain cells have been lost. You lost some memory.
But
Unsaw movie.
one of the movies that was on there was Sullivan's Travels, and I did not know what this movie was. So I was like,
don't.
I'm interested. It was one of those that was 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. It was on AFI's top 100 list, and I went, I want to know more about Sullivan's Travels, 1941.
Jack Black, right?
So I watched it. No. Here's the synopsis. A Hollywood director, John L. Sullivan, sets out to experience life as a poor homeless person in order to gain relevant life experience for his next movie, starring Joel McCrea and Veronica Lake. And let me tell you, I kind of have a crush on Veronica Lake.
Kinda?
Because she's just, and apparently she's a horror to work with. She was terrible on set, but on screen, fantastic. This movie, it's a hidden gem. Like, I watched this one, and it is dated, and it is cheesy, but it is unabashedly uplifting. Because the whole point is, like, this director who's made all these stupid, silly comedies, like, I want to do a drama. I want to do, and this is the name of it, I want to do Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Really?
There's a book, a made-up book, a fictional book called "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" And he wants to adapt that into screen. It's all about suffering and turmoil. That's where the Coen brothers got the idea from.
Makes sense.
And so he says, I'm going to go live as a homeless person so I can understand suffering. And it does not go well. It's actually kind of this screwball comedy about what a stupid idea that is for him to do and how he's not going to get the real experience that way. But then the movie shifts and it goes from this comedic farce into actually a compelling drama where I don't want to get into what happens because I was actually surprised by this movie. It surprised me because stuff happens and all of a sudden it becomes this compelling drama. And the whole point of the movie is that, yeah, you know what? Dramas are great, but people need a comedy. And it started to kind of put comedy up there as like, we all need a good laugh every night, especially those people who are suffering need to laugh. And it gave it gave praise to comedies. And I'm like, well, thank you. And so it's this whole thing about, you know, it is a Hollywood story about Hollywood. And that's probably why it got a lot of praise back then. Because Hollywood
same with Mank, honestly.
movies.
Yeah.
But this one it's a classic. Like, it really is one of those ones I'm like, I think more people need to see this.
Where did you find this?
I may have got this one on Netflix DVD.
Netflix
but
DVD
it's available.
queue.
I would like to add it to my list so I can remove an AFI movie from.
You should.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
from
how
my
it works. But
Only
this
hold
one,
so many.
This one, I mean, it's been called a masterpiece by film historians.
Justified?
It's dated. It
Okay.
definitely is dated. Like, it's one of those things where it's kind of like, we're
But
talking
we
like
can
this.
look at anything through our goggles nowadays and judge
Yeah,
them.
but
But
the way-
back then, for the limited movies they had, was
Yes.
it a masterpiece?
I really, story-wise, it was really good. Story-wise, it was great. Performance-wise, fantastic. And it's just, there's little corny parts in there where it's like they're obviously trying to be a silly comedy, and comedy gets dated very quickly. So it may not be as silly to us. We don't laugh as raucously, maybe, at what we watch on the screen. But this one is one that I want to read the dedication here as the very beginning of the movie. To the memory of those who made us laugh, the motley mountebanks, the clowns, the buffoons, in all times and in all nations, whose efforts have lightened our burden a little, this picture is affectionately dedicated. And it's just kind of, thank you, comedians, for doing comedy and making us forget our troubles for a while.
Wasn't that a Steve Jobs quote?
It may have been.
Hey, I could go for a movie like that right now.
It's fun. It's short. It's fun. It's a good movie. And Veronica
Okay,
Lake
cool.
Kent.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. How about your number 4, Joel?
My number 4 is from
Best.
the year 2000. From the year 2000.
No good movies came out in 2000 except for Bring It On.
Another movie came out. This is
Like,
a
really, what movies came out in 2000?
This is a black hole for movie for me. I was not in the country when this came out. I really didn't watch it, but a lot of people did. A lot of people liked it. Academy Award nominated. Directed by Steven Soderbergh. It's Aaron Brockovich.
Gladiator came out in 2000, by the way.
I would like to take it back.
No, Kent's right.
Stepping back.
So Aaron Brockovich, if you don't know the synopsis, an unemployed single mother becomes a legal assistant and almost single-handedly brings down a California power company accused of polluting a city's water supply. And this is, like I said, directed by Steven Soderbergh, who did Logan Lucky, Contagion, Ocean's 11, 12, 13.
You opened with Logan Lucky.
That was the first one I had.
People love Logan Lucky for some reason.
It's enjoyable.
I like
Yeah.
it.
Starring Julia Roberts, Albert Finney, Aaron Eckhart. But this was really, really well done.
Yeah.
Like, I had heard, I mean, she won the Academy Award for this one. Julia
It's
Roberts
like the
won-
rebirth of Julia Roberts.
This is when she,
For a year.
She won. It was great. And then I was like, yeah, I hear about Aaron Brockovich, and this is based on a true story. But then I watched it, and I love these types of dramas where these kind of
Justice.
everyman underdogs
Yeah.
end up getting justice for people who've been wronged. And it's so fun to watch her outsmart people. Julia Roberts is so fun to watch in this movie, just the way she performs, because she is this kind of crass, rough around the edges personality, but you can't help but love her, and that's why
Yeah.
it's such a good performance. This is rated R, mostly for language, but it's on Vin Angel and ClearPlay DVD.
Did you buy Aaron Eckhart in his performance? Because he's like a biker.
That was weird. That kind of pulled me out from the movie
Rough
for a
around the
second.
edge, yeah.
But this was before Aaron Eckhart was like known as Aaron Eckhart,
Yeah.
and so I was like, okay, I'll let this go. Nominated for 5 nominations at the Academy Awards, and I think it's well deserving of it. I really
agree.
enjoyed the story and the performances. Aaron Brockovich, the actual person, said that this film is, quote, probably 98% accurate.
What?
General facts are accurate, but there are some minor discrepancies. They kind of change stuff for the Hollywood thing, but mostly there.
That would probably be like the truest, based on a true story movie there is.
Yeah, and it's, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you haven't seen Aaron Brockovich yet, because I just kind of put it in the rearview mirror, like, yeah, one day, and then it came on YouTube TV, and I'm like, sure, I'll watch that. It was great.
All right. I've never seen it.
My number 4.
Kent, your number 4.
From a movie about a Hollywood classic to a straight up guilty pleasure, it's The Gentleman.
I hoped this would make your list. You and I saw this one together.
I almost watched this so many times,
Oh,
Kent,
dang
and
it,
then
I
I kept
should've
being
told
like,
you
because I didn't hear anything about it.
Oh, I should have, because
You
we
did a review on
We
it.
did a Bacon Bit about this way earlier this year, or
Yeah.
last year.
This was before me.
And it was just one of those movies where I'm like, hey, Guy Ritchie, Good job again.
Yeah, it's a real Guy Ritchie movie.
Yeah, so the description is an American expat tries to solve his highly profitable marijuana empire in London, triggering plots, schemes, bribery, and blackmail in an attempt to steal his domain from out from under him.
Sounds like a Guy Ritchie movie.
It sounds like a Guy Ritchie movie, and it is, because Guy Ritchie movies are never about what the movie's about.
No.
They're about the characters that are surrounding the events and the entanglements that they have.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what this movie does perfectly. This is... I mean, I love Man from U.N.C.L.E., but if we're talking like his British crime underbelly movies, this
Snatch.
it would go Snatch, Lock, Stock, and then The Gentleman for me.
You know,
really?
Yeah.
You know who I really liked in this movie? Matthew McConaughey.
How?
You have McConaughey.
I like him. He's good.
You don't like Matthew McConaughey.
I know. He's
And
like
also-
chilled. Like he's chilled out just enough in this movie. And it works.
And he is like the American in the movie, and so you should be annoyed because everyone else, like Colin Farrell, plays it ugly again. Hugh Grant in this movie is fantastic. Charlie Hunnam in this movie is one of the leads, and everyone is just perfect for a Guy Ritchie movie. And I know that may not ask too much because you just got to be real snappy and violent.
How's Lady Mary in this movie?
Oh, so Michelle Dockery in this movie is great.
Downton Abbey, I keep wondering if she's a one-hit wonder.
She's crass in this movie, and it's kind of fun to see.
This movie is crass in a British way.
But remember, what was that movie, King Arthur, where Guy Ritchie made a movie like that? That was before he did Aladdin. He's had a weird filmography.
Yeah.
That's
And
the one
so
with Charlie
recently he
Hunnam's.
has, yeah.
So King Arthur, he tried to do this thing where he's like, yeah, this movie's kind of dull, but let's play with time a little bit and take things out of context like I've always done. And so it goes from A to Z to C to T, you know? And so this movie tells the story, so it tells the narrative of what you should care about in the movie.
The fact that it's being almost narrated like a script, like
in
a screenplay.
a conversation. Yes, exactly.
It's basically Spice World.
Wow.
So the Modern Spice World is my number 4 movie of the year. And this is one of these things where the pacing is perfect. Everything clips along. Everything in this movie has consequences. And when it gets to the end, you're like, you know what? That wrapped up with a bow, but I'm totally satisfied because it feels like early 2000s Guy Ritchie. And so it's a total guilty pleasure. It's not even that great, but I've watched it a few times now, and I'm like, yeah, it's enjoyable.
That you made me happy because I actually just recently showed my wife Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
Yeah.
I was just about to show her Snatch, and then I'm like,
Did
okay.
she like Lock, Stock?
She liked
It's
it.
a
Okay.
little harder
Well,
to get into. Snatch is way easier.
Well, and the version we have
Yeah.
is a clean fix version, so there's no subtitles, obviously, and so she's like, she hates accents because then she can't understand.
Wait
what's
till
happening.
she sees Brad Pitt in Snatch.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was. I told
Yeah.
her, I'm like, yeah, watch it, Caravan.
This one, I think The Gentleman's breezier than those two.
It is.
So she actually might like this one
Okay.
more than the best.
Definitely rated R.
Yeah.
Definitely. A lot of British swear words.
A lot of British
I
swear
know
words.
Clearplay has it.
A lot of big boy swear words in this one.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh.
All right. And that puts us to your number 3, Kent.
I rarely put comedies in my top 5.
Isn't Gentleman kind of a comedy?
It is. I laughed.
Isn't Mank
I laughed a ton.
Isn't Mank kind of a comedy?
I think it's an uncomfortable comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my number 3 is a straight up comedy featuring someone I would never put anywhere near a top 10 in any way.
Jim Parsons.
Andy Samberg.
What?
My number
Oh.
3 movie is Palm Springs.
I still haven't seen this, but I keep wanting to.
I want you to see this movie so bad.
I saw a trailer for it the other day. I was like, that's right. I need to watch that.
When carefree Niles and reluctant maid of honor Sarah have a chance encounter at a Palm Springs wedding, things get complicated as they are unable to escape the venue, themselves, or each other.
Now,
that
that
sounds
sounds
like a typical rom-com.
Can I just say
Yeah.
from once again, I have not seen the movie. I've only seen the trailer. It's basically they're stuck in a time loop. It's like Groundhog Day.
Okay, because I was wondering if I could ruin things from this movie.
That's all in the trailer. Yeah, that's right there. Like the
This
beginning.
is the tried and true and tired formula of Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
But the difference is Andy Samberg's character has been living this wedding day that no one wants to be at. I can think of like a few worse events in life, but a wedding day is like one of the worst, right?
If it's not yours.
And
yes.
he's been in this day maybe 1,000 times
wow.
already when the movie starts. And so you're like, wow. And then when she gets roped in a way, you're like, wow, this is different. This feels
Edge of
different.
Tomorrow.
Yeah. But it adds so many layers and it's so funny. I've never really cared much I've never watched How I Met Your Mother, but Christine Milioti
Yes.
is a scene stealer.
She was great for what they gave her.
Yeah.
The 20 minutes she was on the show.
Yeah.
She's fantastic in this movie. I was bummed. So I saw this one at Sundance earlier last year. And I was like, hey, when this movie comes out to theaters, this is going to be a smash success. And then it went straight to Hulu in like June and everyone's like, oh, Palm Springs, that's pretty cool. But that is 2020, right?
Yeah.
But I've seen this one a few times and it's so funny. Is it crass? Yeah, it's an Andy Samberg movie produced by Andy Samberg. But there's like a really nice, like deceptive love story in here too. And obviously the Groundhog Day elements come into it. J.K. Simmons is here as well.
Yeah.
Strangely.
I know Emily loved this one too.
We saw this one at Sundance. So yeah, it's fantastic. So watch this one. Be ready for dirty jokes, but still it feels right now, but it just feels nice. So yeah, Palm Springs.
Dirty jokes feel nice. What?
The movie feels nice.
Okay.
All right, Joel, let's move over to you for your number 3.
My number 3 is my only 2020 pick on my top 5.
Oh, boy.
So, can you think of all the movies you watched in 2020? Which one would I put at my number 1? Because it's not what you're thinking.
I know.
It's not Tenet. You don't really like that.
Go.
Hamilton.
That's right.
Oh.
It's
You
Hamilton.
give it 4 stars?
I did. This is one where I was like, actually, I think I may have given this one 4.5.
So the 2020 movie about the 2016 musical
That was supposed to
that's
come out in
filmed on
2021.
stage. Yeah.
It was supposed to come out October 2021. So this is obviously the story of Alexander Hamilton. What's his name?
It's Alexander Hamilton.
And this is something where we watched it. I'd never seen the play, and so I would
Never listened to the soundtrack.
No, I knew the soundtrack.
Okay.
I'd listened to the soundtrack, but I'd never seen the play. I didn't know when I was going to see the play. And then the Disney Plus series, or the Disney Plus,
It's basically
movie.
a series because it's 3 hours long.
It's 3 hours long, but it came out, and I was able to enjoy the play on screen, which isn't the same as watching a live play. But I'll tell you what, it's dang close.
Well, you get different angles. You get closer up to their face. So,
Yeah.
And I got spit on, which was weird.
yeah, it's weird.
You say that. But here's the thing: is this is actually made from 3 different performances. It was a June 6, 2016 performance, and another one, and then they did like these setup shots where they would no audience, just get up on the camera with or get up on the stage with a crane and get in people's faces. But this is one where I think everybody watched this. Everyone was like, "Oh yeah, Hamilton's coming out of Disney Plus." Everyone was obsessed, and I was like, "Whatever." And we did a whole bacon bit on it. Thoroughly enjoyed it. This music has been playing almost constantly in my house since then. My kids love the Hamilton soundtrack. That is their musical, and I love that they've latched on to musical theater because I'm a big fan myself. And so I love it for that it's kind of kindled this little fire of musical theater in my children. I also really was impressed when I saw it on the stage, even after hearing the music. So thoroughly impressed, thoroughly enjoyed it. This is the only 2020 movie that I was like, this is one that deserves.
What's your desire to rewatch this?
I've had it in the background a couple times, but to sit down and rewatch, I've sat
This is
down.
this is a great background show.
Oh, it's totally great.
Yeah, but that's about it for me.
But I've watched it all the way through twice.
Oh, you have? Okay. So,
Yes. And then partially a number of times after
Yeah.
that.
I think I've seen it like a couple times, but I'm due for a rewatch on this one.
Yeah.
It's a good show.
So this is one where, if you haven't seen Hamilton the musical, it is a lot of fun to watch. It's just great to see. And it's also good because it's also, and this is dumb, I know, because it's not historically accurate all the way through completely.
No.
But it also has kindled my kids' love for learning about the Revolution and the Founding Fathers and stuff like that. We've had so many good discussions about it, and I'm like, thank you, Hamilton.
They're going to be
Thank you,
disappointed when
2020.
they're all white people. Oh, wait. Hashtag
And
America.
they don't sing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go.
Jefferson can't rap. What?
Hamilton. Here comes a general.
Lady. Oh, I could go all day.
I did want to give one more stat. Sorry.
Yeah, oh.
On the weekend of the film's release, the Disney Plus app was downloaded 266,000 times, a 72% increase from the past 4 weeks total. So obviously, this was the reason a lot of people got Disney Plus.
I would say between this and near the end of Mandalorian season 1 is when Disney Plus became a thing.
Well, yeah, I was like, oh, well, there's enough episodes of The Mandalorian, and now I'll watch Hamilton. Okay.
Yeah, I can actually go past my free trial.
There was
now.
so many people who just didn't, want to watch it just for one show.
Right. But I mean, even then, you're paying like $7.99 for one show, which is a lot, but I mean, it's 3 hours. So
There are a total of, just one show still on Disney Plus that I would watch. So good thing it's
they
out
have
there
the
still.
X-Men animated series.
Is it That's So Raven?
Yeah, for sure. I'm really waiting for that Lizzie McGuire reboot.
Oh, it's not coming out, by the way.
Ah, dang it.
Sorry.
You're going to ruin my year.
I'm going to ruin your year?
Joel, what's your number 2?
My number 2 was Kent's number 4 last year. And I'd actually seen it before we recorded that show, but I couldn't put it on my list because I saw it in
How
2020.
did you hold back?
It's Joker.
It is
2019.
Wait, you saw Joker? Was it your first movie of
It was
the year?
one of the first movies I watched this year last year in 2020.
Can I be honest? If I saw Joker this year, it would have been straight up number 1.
It would have been.
Like, it's just
But
that
here's
good.
the other weird thing, Kent.
Yeah.
No one talks about this movie anymore. No, you don't hear people talking about Joker anymore. It's almost like it's kind of been brushed under the
Nobody
rug.
ever did.
Well, Like nobody
the
did.
Oscars. Up to the Oscars, it did.
Except for
After
the Oscars.
it was like.
But even then, it was the conversation leading up to it about, what's it going to do in society? What's the impact going to be?
I actually feel after the last Oscars, the world changed so immediately that we don't hear about Parasite or Joker or anything
That's
that was
probably
really
true.
nominated because the world changed and people went, oh, I don't care about cinema
and
as
it was
much right now.
I only
It was
care about The
almost
Office.
immediately after. I will tack onto that the Super Bowl. Like people don't have
Oh, yeah.
anything that happened
So-
in the first 2.5 months last.
So that's the thing. I think if movies continue, people would be like, we would have got big budget superhero movies again. And people would be like, that's awesome, but I want to see like a darker, independent like view on a villain like Joker.
Which, I was going to say the whole story. We talked about it on last Bacon Bit, but if you didn't, or last year's episode, but if you don't know the story of Joker, it's kind of. I'll just read the synopsis. In Gotham City, mentally troubled comedian Arthur Fleck is disregarded and mistreated by society. He then embarks on a downward spiral of revolution and bloody crime. So it's grim like this, and it's directed by Todd Phillips, who did Old School, Starsky and Hutch, and The Hangover 1, 2, and 3. This guy is kind of a comedy guy, and yet he did this one so straightforward and serious.
Yeah.
And it was impressive to watch. This is very bloody violence, disturbing behavior, language, nudity. It's all there. Brief nudity. But then it's on ClearPlay. It's on streaming ClearPlay and DVD and Blu-ray. You can get it edited there. But the thing I liked about it is that I'm still trying to figure out what was real and what was not. I talked about this a lot on the last year's episode of this, but I really was impressed. And now The King of Comedy, if you haven't seen that, it's a
I haven't.
Martin Scorsese movie. This is very close to that same story. In fact, the whole King of Comedy is about this comedian trying to get on his favorite. This comedian played by Robert De Niro,
Who's in this movie.
who's in this movie, but he's trying to get on his favorite talk show host's show as a comedian.
Right.
And it plays a lot of the same things. Like, it's weird how close it is. And King of Comedy, it's okay. I liked it. But Joker, something about it, because I was worried when this movie was going to come out, Kent, that I was like, what are they going to do? The Joker.
We don't need an origin
We
story.
don't need an origin story. We don't need a backstory. That's what makes him a cool villain.
But is it an origin story? Is it happening?
That's just it. And I liked that.
Did you like
aspect of
the
it.
end? Did you feel like it nailed the landing?
I think it did, only because, once again, what's in his head, what's not in his head, like what's real, what's not real, and I like that there can be that discussion of it. And this grossed over $1 billion, the first and only R-rated film to do so, and yet it was the sixth highest grossing of 2019, because that was a big year.
Yeah,
it actually got beat by Avengers: Endgame, The Lion King, Frozen 2, Spider-Man: Far From Home, and Captain Marvel. But it did. Joker did beat Rise of Skywalker.
Will movies make that kind of money again? Like for the next 3 years?
I think
No.
so. I think once they open the floodgates and like it's all clear,
I don't think so. I think people are too scared.
But people want to get back. I think.
Sure, but it's a percentage.
Yeah. So after the performances of the Joker from Heath Ledger and Mark Hamill and Jack Nicholson, like these great performances of the
Jared
Joker.
Leto.
I didn't say that. I didn't mention him. But after those great performances of it, I was like, okay, this guy's got some pretty big clown shoes to fill. But he did it.
It's Joaquin Phoenix.
He did it
Yeah.
very well. And as much as he's kind of a nut.
Yes.
And that's just it. Him on the screen, I was worried that he was going to come off the screen and get me.
Straight up. It is The Ring.
It's very scary for that reason. And the score is fantastic.
I was going to say the what sets this movie apart for me, like the story is fine and it's interesting and it's got a kind of a cliche twist, if you will. Like, is it real or is it not? Right.
I get that.
But this is the three elements of Joaquin Phoenix performance is amazing. The cinematography is outstanding.
Yeah.
And the score is next level.
Oh, it's so
it's
good.
And
so good.
You know the person who did the score?
Hildur Gudnadottir.
I think when you combined it sounded right. But yeah, that was my number 2 of last year. Was Kent's number 4 of the previous
Great
year.
pick.
Yeah, good choice. Love that movie.
Joel, I'd like to apologize for previous years on this specific episode when I've mocked you for your rules.
You're putting a not 2020 movie here.
Correct.
What?
Kent did it. He
So-
caved.
My number 2 movie of 2021 that I saw in 2020 but will not be released wide.
Oh, okay. So you saw it in 2020, but it's
I
actually-
saw this one at Sundance. It will
Still
not
hasn't
be
come out.
released until summer of 2021. It's called 9 Days.
Oh, this was the one.
Okay.
This is the one. Yeah.
So, a reclusive man conducts a series of interviews with human souls for a chance to be born. Now, I actually kind of feel bad because Soul came out and it's kind of about death and pre-Earth and body swapping.
Where
and,
do we come
and
from?
Cat
What do we do
comedy.
here? Where are we going?
Yeah, and jazz music. It's a lot of things.
Damien Chazelle.
This is one thing where people are going to be like, oh, that movie's kind of like Soul, because when I saw this one, I said, no other movie's done this concept.
Oh,
this is,
and now it's got the
yeah, and it's got the kind
ahead
of Pixar stain on it.
Well, I wouldn't call it that.
And so this movie, it's Winston Duke, and he's interviewing souls, but it's just people coming to this small home in the middle of some desert, it almost feels like. And he has TVs that he's watching. I'll say it this way. He's a guardian angel that chooses to give you the chance to be born and then make your own decisions. And he's over, let's say, 20 people. And so he has an opening to be born on Earth. And he goes, okay, I'm going to interview 10 people, and they have 9 days to prove to me that they want to be born and that it will make a difference
Now, Ken,
in their life.
You have explained this movie to me after you
Yes.
saw it at Sundance. I've watched the trailer for this movie. I still don't get it.
It's so artsy that it's trying to distract you with just like the big score and the big ideas. And because when you watch this movie, some of the concepts are scary. These souls want to be born, but they're not given the chance to. The theology is a little bit strange.
Okay.
And I say theology in a movie like this because it fits. It's not quite any specific religion, but it feels reminiscent of many. And that's why I think you'll see this one at end of next year of like, okay, if that wasn't one of the 10 best movies of the year, at least it had a profound influence on...
Didn't that already come out, though, with Kevin Spacey as a cat?
9 Lives.
Oh, that's it.
Christopher Plummer actually played the cat. So I don't know if you've got
This almost feels like, you know that Albert Brooks movie, Defending Your Life?
Yeah.
With
Which
Meryl
is
Streep?
weird,
It's
right?
Like,
Yeah.
It's like the pre-mortal version of that.
Yeah, right. And so,
Interesting.
and that is a clever movie. Like becomes
Yeah.
kind of this weird romantic comedy thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one kind of is. There's no comedy to it.
No.
It's devastating at parts. But all the actors here. So you have Benedict Wong, Zazie Beetz, who's in Joker, Tony Hale, Bill Skarsgård. So many great actors here,
Okay.
and it's just like a Q&A thing. And sometimes you watch TV screens of people living their lives, and you see the hardships. So whereas Soul is like, hey, what's your purpose? This movie's like, hey, when you were born, life's going to be hard, but I think you can do it. So you're chosen for this reason or that reason. And it is touching. It is a beautiful, beautiful movie. So it's my number 2. Feels wrong because it doesn't come out. It didn't come out in 2020.
It was seen in theaters in 2020.
Yes.
So maybe it sort of counts.
Okay. So, but
Counts.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Then I take back my apology. I renounce my apology.
Nope.
Before
Too
we get-
late, Max Lord.
We need to move forward with your honorable mentions for the year. Before
I
we get to
have
number 1.
many. So, A Son, you can find this one on Netflix. It's a Korean family drama. Another Round, Mads Mikkelsen drinks a lot of beer in this movie, and it's a Danish film. It's fantastic.
That's a great pitch, kid.
It's actually so fun. Nomadland, this is one you're going to hear about around Oscars.
Is that Francis McDormand?
Yes.
Yeah.
His House, which is on Netflix now. It's a scary
That's a
movie.
ghost movie, yeah,
Yeah,
with
it's a ghost movie.
refugees.
Wolfwalkers. This one is on Apple Plus.
My
Yes.
kids watched that without me.
Oh, why?
Because I was
It's like a
working.
total
I was
pizza
working.
movie night movie.
They watched it, and it is now one of my daughter's favorite movie. She told me that.
So Secret of Kellis, which we watched,
Yep.
Song of the Sea,
Yep.
it is the same crew. It is the end of their Irish trilogy.
yeah, it's like an anime. It's really uniquely animated movies. With
You see the pencil
compelling
lines
stories.
in the
Yeah,
animation.
It's cool.
And it's beautiful. Underwater, Guilty Pleasure with Kristen Stewart.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Again, you're doing a weird horror movie.
Yeah. Sound of Metal, One Night in Miami, The Way Back, The Father, and News of the World. I can go into descriptions of
didn't
each
know
of
you
these.
had
single
that
one.
many. I
News
can't
of the World has Tom Hanks. It's a Western.
Yeah.
The Father, Anthony Hopkins as a...
He's got dementia.
yeah, he has dementia, and it is crazy awesome.
A lot of
It's
these
such a
trailers-
cool experimental
Chris
movie.
Hemsworth in that one?
No.
Yeah, you can.
Stop
You
that.
can find. I was going to say you can find a lot of these trailers online. A lot of them are being released now.
Yes. And a lot of these movies will come out in the next 2 weeks because they've been waiting till January because they're Oscar picks. The Way Back has Ben Affleck as an alcoholic.
Right.
And it is actually
He's
really...
is that the basketball?
yeah, he's a Catholic boys' school
Yeah, he
basketball
talked about it on
couch.
Taken Bit, yeah.
Couch. Or coach. And
He's a basketball couch.
He's drunk.
Ben Affleck plays a couch.
He voices...
He can do it. He can do it, Ken.
His
Couch blinks a lot. What's going
And
on?
it's incredibly touching and sad. And then One Night in Miami is a one night with Muhammad Ali, Malcolm
yeah.
X, Sam Cooke, and James.
It's like $1 million
Jim Brown.
quartet.
Yeah.
And it is. It's an incredible movie where
But
the
that was
dialogue
one
is so
where
good.
I mean, that's totally fictional, though. It was,
Yeah, it is
like a
fictional.
what if these
Yeah.
guys met together one night in Miami.
And Sound of Metal is on Amazon Prime.
like a- it's
a lot
like
of
a
these movies
painting.
are available right now
Yeah, you can
for
still watch
streaming.
them. Yeah.
So those are my many. Like I said,
I'm
at the end of
surprised
the
you
year,
pulled that many.
And I could have made any one of these top 5 or top 10, but yeah, a lot of honorable mentions.
How about you, Joel?
Mono mentions once again from any year. American Animals, 2018.
Oh, I love
was
that movie.
A heist movie based on true events that was
About
really
stealing
fun.
a book from a library.
Yeah, it was really good. The Peanut Butter Falcon. Surprisingly,
Yeah. Oh, so good.
it could have been very schmaltzy, but it was actually very sincere. I'm like, thank you. 1917. I was impressed by that one. I saw that one this year.
Still haven't seen that one.
Jumanji: The Next Level, which is basically the same movie as 1917. Top Hat, Fred Astaire movie that was really, really cute. I really enjoyed that one. Run Silent, Run Deep, and Stalag 17, both World War II movies that
Your dad loves those,
my dad
right?
read, and I was like really impressed by him. So thanks, Dad. Orphan made my list, 2009.
Yeah.
'Cause
Guilty
did not-
pleasure?
What?
Guilty pleasure?
Did not see that coming. I thought I knew the twist. I did not
Okay,
know
leave
the
it there.
twist.
Don't say it.
Crawl made my honorable
Yes,
mentions.
I love Crawl.
That was in your top 5 last year.
Yeah.
The Queen, 2006. Remember that one
That's
about Princess Diana's death?
Yeah.
That was,
Helen Mirren?
Yeah, that was really muted performances, but wow, that was compelling to watch.
Yeah.
And then The Thief of Baghdad, which was a 1940s fantasy film. That was the one where it has
I didn't know you loved this one.
there's a
that
character
much.
named Abu, there's a character named Jafar,
Yeah.
there's a sultan, like it's all kind of, there's Jasmine, but it's all there. These elements are there. But I was really impressed by how visual effects worked in this 1940s movie. So they swung for the fences on this one, and I think they nailed it. But it didn't quite make my top 5 or even my top 10. In fact, if you want to see my top 10, you can go to theformer786.blogspot.com because the only time I update my blog is to give my top 10 movies of the year.
Okay.
So-
Is there going to be an update this year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it all almost set. I'll got it ready to go by the time this comes out.
All right, Kent, your number 1 of 2020.
Joel, could I get some Hans Zimmer in the background?
I knew it.
Armed only one or tenant and fighting for the entire world, protecting the why the world of international espionage on a mission that will unfold in something beyond real time.
What? Nobody understood you.
I'm kicking myself right now. I'm kicking myself right now.
How did you not know?
Because I should have guessed this was your number.
So
one. I was trying to
obvious.
guess it.
This is one I've debated, so I've gone back to rewatch every movie I've considered a top 15.
Gone backwards to watch.
Exactly. And so I have seen this one twice in the theaters, once IMAX, regular theater, and then at home with subtitles on my big screen TV. Thanks, Zach.
Yep.
And it got better every single time.
I need to watch this one again.
Also, before anybody says anything, we know that Hans Zimmer didn't do the music for this movie, right?
No, he didn't.
No,
Yeah.
he didn't.
But I mean, you had to have the Hans Zimmer-esque feel.
We also know
and
that
you
Han-
actually came out with the tenant
That was good.
soundtrack.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I was going to say we also know that Hans Zimmer didn't do the blah. That wasn't him. That was someone else. That was Zach. What's his name? Hennessy.
Was it?
Sure.
We are giving Zimmer way too much credit.
We are.
I actually think he's
I give him credit for Pirates. He didn't do Pirates. That was Klaus Badelt.
What?
Yeah.
Junkie XL. Hans Zimmer's just
Are we
okay.
doing the Hans Zimmer hate show?
Hans Zimmer's
Yeah.
a hack.
Go on.
He's pretty good. He didn't do a great job in Wonder Woman 84, but he's pretty good.
Yeah, anyway.
Okay. So I could go on about why I love this movie, and it more sounds like I'm defending it because having rewatched it, I'm like, yeah, the protagonist isn't really a character, but it's almost like this is Nolan's Bond film because you could just put a stamp of James Bond. You're basically saying the protagonist. This is a man who gave up his life, and it is character consistent through the movie. He doesn't need a character because he is dead. He is dead, and he is meant to...
Are you spoiling this, Kent?
Well, he's not dead. He's not a ghost in the movie. But he's on this mission. He's Black Ops, if you will. I actually get more and more into the characters, and granted, I understand the story a whole lot more with subtitles now. The first time we saw this in the theater, I got a headache, to be honest, because it felt like it was hitting me so fast, like with plot and exposition, like a Nolan movie does, where I'm like, oh, I couldn't really follow that part or that part, like what happened here. And you could hear us kind of break it down on the Bacon bit we did, where I'm like, I didn't catch that at all. Whereas second time around, I caught the parts you mentioned, but then more.
Okay.
And then different layers. And I'm watching Neil, played by Robert Pattinson, the whole time, being like, how many of him are there?
Best
at this
part of the
point?
movie.
And so this is a movie, and this, once again, it's such a Nolan thing to do, but it's a temporal pincer within a temporal pincer within a temporal pincer. And even using the term
temporal pincer one more time.
temporal pincer in a movie should be so dumb. But Nolan, I think, overthought this movie so much to say, hey, when people actually understand this, they're not going to find a hole here.
Well,
because that's what he's done.
But here's the thing, Ken.
Yes.
Is that this movie, I think, is getting unjustified dislike. I wouldn't say hate.
It was until recently when movie theaters are still shut down. But it was the movie that was meant to save theaters.
But that's the thing. I think people are unfairly bashing on it because they're like, yeah, it didn't do as good as he thought it was going to. And I'm like, no one was going to movies, and it still made like $300 million.
$450, I believe.
Yeah, and so I'm like, it made money. Didn't get its budget back though, did it? Did it make a profit?
Well, if you doubled the budget, no.
Yeah, because that's the thing is, I know that it didn't do as big as they wanted to, but I'm still like, it did very well for a movie in the pandemic.
Adjusted for pandemic, it's done really well.
Adjusted for pandemic.
Yeah.
And granted, some people may see this, many people, especially this year where it is like such like short-term memory loss, they may see this movie and say, okay, that didn't click with me. I saw it once. It was 2.5 hours. I'm not going to watch it again. This is not one of those spoon-fed, single-serving movies.
But I also think it's a movie where, much like Inception, where if you tell somebody this movie's hard to understand, that most people don't get this movie, a lot of people don't like it, that's actually a challenge for a lot of people. And they may go into it going, I don't know what the big deal was. Like, I see where it was going. So,
Yeah. And strangely, and I don't know if I have less sound. I obviously do at home. It wasn't a loud movie. I could hear, and granted, I was reading too. I could hear every line too, which is weird. IMAX ruined the experience for me.
I really think IMAX was kind of a bad idea.
Also, when we left the movie and Zack started driving his car backwards through the parking lot, totally threw me off. And I kind of hate you for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously, everyone knew when a Nolan movie comes out in a year, it's going to be my favorite. And truly, thankfully, upon third viewing, because I wasn't sure after viewing 2, I was still like, that's a B+. It became an A- and my favorite movie of 2020.
I'm worried though, Ken. I'm worried that you put yourself in a position now that even when Nolan makes a misstep, because he will one day.
He
Kent,
will.
That you're going to still, because
In fact,
of your
many would
pride,
consider this to be it.
This is the closest thing in a while.
But that's the thing. I think your pride will still make you go, no, it was great. It was great. I don't like it.
If I can evaluate a movie where I want to know more about it, that a movie stays with me, that's easily a top 10 movie for me. The one that like I won't forget about immediately.
I've had a lot of discussion about Wonder Woman 1984, Kent.
Oh.
Does that mean it belongs in
No,
the
that
greatest
movie I
list?
still forgot about though. See, to me, that is a forgettable movie.
That didn't make our worst, and it didn't make our best.
No. To me, it's as average as you can get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually think between, what was this, Dunkirk?
Yeah.
Like a lot of people didn't love Dunkirk either.
That's
So,
true.
Nolan-
Based on the way he tells a story.
Yeah, Nolan might be back to like
you imagine?
hipster status for you.
Can you imagine Nolan reading stories to his kids at night?
Fucking pages all around.
Hey, it's called Choose Your Own Adventure.
No,
except for he starts
he's
at the
reading,
end.
Like there's a monster at the end of this book, and he starts with the
The
monster,
giant
and then
ant
jumps back
just
to the
ate
front.
you. Jump to page 1.
Flip the and the broom of the witch's broom broke. Flip forward.
By the way,
and
Zach,
then she's on
you
a
calling
frog.
Nolan hipster made me a little excited.
I mean, that's the thing, though.
Is he
That's what
one of
Zach
the most
said.
profitable directors out there?
I kind of blushed a little
But
bit.
the fact that the it didn't go forward, right? I don't think he's going to be in like the Spielberg territory where every year it's this big thing. I think he's sort of found this niche of like, no, it's not going to be a digestible blockbuster movie, and it's maybe better that way.
Yeah, that's how I feel. All right, Joel.
Joel,
I'm dying. What's your
your
number
number
one
one.
movie
My number
that you
one
saw in
movie.
2020 that came out in 1987?
This is an odd pick.
Okay.
Because this may not be a movie that I'll be like, I'll throw this on any time and I'll love it. But I probably had more conversations about this movie than any other movie this past year. And it was Kent's number 3 last year.
Parasite.
Parasite.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know how to explain this movie. It's a drama. It's a thriller. It's a comedy. It's kind of everything.
There's some
And-
horror elements.
That I put in the thriller.
Yeah,
So I was
sure.
like, there's that one part that was very creepy. But let me read the synopsis. Greed and class discrimination threaten the newly formed symbiotic relationship between wealthy Park family and the destitute Kim clan, which makes it sound really cerebral, and it's not, but it is. It's so interesting to watch because you watch this poor family as they fake being a tutor, an English tutor, and then they fake being a driver, and they fake being a psychiatrist. Like they kind of all work their way into this family's home. And I thought I knew where the movie was kind of going, and then
Halfway
it took
through.
a sharp left.
As soon as the doorbell rings.
And I'm like, what is happening right now? And all of a sudden it became a completely different movie, but still so compelling. And then it becomes another completely different movie, and I'm still just totally enthralled by this. And the whole time I'm watching it, and this is a Korean movie, like, it's subtitled. And it's one of those movies where I'm like, this is one I'd love to show people, because I'm like, look, foreign films can hold your attention the whole time. Because some people don't have any patience for them. And I'm like, there's some really good movies out there that you should give a chance. And I feel a little icky picking this as my number one, because this won
Such a darling.
This won Best Picture.
Yeah.
The first foreign film to ever win Best Picture.
It's that
And
good.
But that's the thing is, my wife and I had a very long conversation after this movie was over, and subsequent days after, we were still talking about this movie. And I keep thinking about how this movie affected me because I was completely caught off guard, and I loved every minute of it, being caught off guard. Because not many movies can do that anymore. Now, this may rub some people the wrong way because it is unusual.
Yeah.
But I love that
It doesn't end quite the way you'd want it to either.
No, and that's the thing. I had some issues with the ending, which my wife and I have discussed ad nauseum. But I love that it's a movie with protagonists you can't fully like and antagonists you don't really hate.
Right.
I don't agree with every decision this movie made, but wow, it was fun to watch. And I say fun loosely. It's not like, ha ha, I'm loving this. It was more like, that was a really cool ride. So Parasite is one of those movies, if you haven't seen it yet, I do recommend you do watch it. It is rated R for minor language and some violence. It's really fairly tame.
Implied.
Yeah, but there's clear play streaming and VidAngel. Like you can find it and just meet up those couple little things, and it's just a compelling watch.
Zach, have you seen this one?
Not yet.
Get on that.
There's so many.
Get on
movies I
that
need to see.
Parasite. Okay.
Wow, that sounded gross. So there you go. So Zach, you want to read us back what our top 5 and bottom 5 were, so we can recap that for the listener?
Okay, starting with you, Kent. You have at 5 Doolittle, then Antebellum, Fantasy Island, Coffee and Kareem, and Artemis Fowl.
Was that your best or worst, Ken?
Oh,
That was
that's all.
Joel. Yours started with Artemis Fowl. Then you had Night Train, 1941, Casino Royale, and Jason Takes Manhattan. Friday the 13th, 8.
I love that list so much.
So terrible.
And then for your top, we have with you again, Kent, Mank, The Gentleman, Palm Springs, 9 Days, and Tenet.
There we go.
And Joel, Sullivan's Travels, Aaron Brockovich, Hamilton, Joker, and Parasite. And I gotta say, based on that list, Joel, you win.
Well, the funny thing is,
Picking from every year, is there an advantage there?
Ken and I normally have some crossover, at least one or two, but it's just funny how we didn't have any this year.
Yeah, it's
the
true.
Usual year. Although I crossed over last year's list, so
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
there you go.
Good work, gentlemen.
So let
you
us
watched
know,
movies.
Yeah, we did. And let us know what movies you enjoyed or didn't enjoy last year. Give us your best and your worst on Facebook, on Instagram, and Twitter. We will be there. We're back. So let us know because we love hearing from you guys.
Absolutely.
Before we go, we'd like to thank our patrons. In particular, the I Am the Listener tier, which includes Terry Finley, Sweet Bottom Cakes, just get out, Sean Sandquist, Plot Twist Media. Kyler wishes all the lowercase listeners a Merry Christmas. Probably not change that, Kyler. Jennifer Kukowski, Glow Clendaniel, Crew Dutler, Braden Winterton, Babs, Alicia Bass, and Adrian Gray. We also have our Bacon Council, which includes The Shadow, Stephen Ross, Ryan Farron, Matts, Chris Anderson, Jessica Terry, Hailstorm, Brian Madsen, and Reverse Listener. Thank you so much for being patrons. We really do appreciate it.
Definitely do.
You help us keep doing what we're doing.
Thank you.
But if you want to find me, you can find me at 76Joel on Twitter. Or you can find me Performing with Quickwits. They're performing online for free. For more details, go to qwcomedy.com or go to the Quickwits Facebook page.
If you want to find me on Twitter or Instagram, it's at Kenny3DD. If you want to read my movie reviews, at ShowtimeShowdown.com.
If you'd like to connect with me, you can do so on Twitter and Instagram at Tumbling Mustard. But more importantly, make sure you're following Baconsale. Go ahead and like the page on Facebook and also go to Twitter and Instagram at Baconsale. And while you're doing that, stop by tpublic.com/Baconsale and get yourself some merch. There may be some more fun things on the way. I've been saying that for months, but it might be true this time.
Might be true.
And also, if you like what's going on and you want to support the show and get a little bit of extra fun as well, go to patreon.com/Baconsale, where you can get everything from a text conversation that randomly turned into a fake bacon bit to a weekly bacon. Well, not weekly, but sometimes they happen.
Semi-regular
Bacon bits. Where we talk about whatever we feel like for 10 to 45 minutes.
That sounds all right. So until next time, Baconsale has grown a lot in the 6 years since we began. This was the first episode of season 7.
I know it's all for me.
If you steal my sunshine,
Something you are stealing my TV.
I never know the lyrics.
Nobody knows the words.
We did date casually,
Yeah.
right? There was no title with our relationship.
As there never is with yours.
Hold on. Wait. Wait, what's happening?
I'm drunk with power.
And it's
Where's
just
your
the
precious
craziest thing.
calendar now, Ken?
It's destroyed, Joel, okay? Is that what you want to know?
yes.
Ma, they're sending me no screeners.
First world Utah Film Critics problems right here.
This sandwich needs to make sense. It's basically Spice World.
Lurs!
Oh, first lures of the year.
Isn't it just called A now? Is this
Yeah.
the John Wick movie?
Yeah, Steve Zahn. I like Steve Zahn. I want to watch movies with Steve Zahn in them. What are you dating? But it's 1979 PG.
So there's like 6 F words in it.
No, it's mostly just nudity.
Just like that. But smile. Don't smell Fantasy Island. Legit.
Who are his parents?
Yeah.
Martin Scorsese's his parents?
Smersh and hate it.
Fun fact, James Corden's never been funny.
Wow, Zach's coming out of 2021 with some James Corden hate.
I'm like grading on the curve. I'm like,
It's like you're
these
dating
movies
life.
are so good.
More like Artemis Fowl, am I right?